Guys, welcome back. I hope you all are doing very well. First of all, I would like to thank you guys for 585 subscribers as of recording of this YouTube video. I really do much appreciate it, and remember that if you do enjoy the content, find it useful, helpful, whatever the case might be, please hit the sub button to help me reach that 1k goal. So, real quick, what do I have for you guys today? Well, I'm a little bit late to the bandwagon. Today I do have a Yareli Prime video for you guys, so it is, like I said, a week late, but remember I do grind for my stuff. I don't buy the Prime Access, and it's not that I think anything of it, it's just, you know, I just don't buy the Prime Access. I like grinding in the game, I enjoy trying to get stuff, so that is why I do it that way. So just a couple things to note when it comes to Yareli Prime. I have seen some comments on some videos saying, oh, nobody cared until Prime came out. Oh yeah, she's always been good. It's a wonder how people only just found out, blah blah blah. Yeah, people don't really pay attention to frames that aren't Prime frames. It's one of those things. The only frames I would say that really get used a lot that isn't a Prime is basically stuff like Curvo. So yeah, you aren't a pioneer of the dark ages if you use Yareli, the normal Yareli, up until the Prime came out. You know, it's just one of those things. I use Gaia a hell of a lot, and she's not primed. So yeah, it just seems silly to me when people would make comments like that, saying like, "Oh, the only reason you guys care is because she's a Prime." It's like, yeah, pretty much. You know, it's just one of those things. She's new, she's shiny. It's like that with everything, anyways. So yeah. So I just want to make a quick note about Yareli Prime, and it's that she is extremely tanky Warframe. Yeah, on this setup, of course, really good. The gameplay doesn't really speak for anything. I just tested out a couple of things. I was using the Tenet Laxian with a blast setup. I was trying to level it up a little bit, stuff like that. And this is when I noticed some finicky stuff with fourth ability, where the hitboxes and stuff like that wasn't really that good when it comes to her fourth ability. But yeah, other than that, really, I enjoy her. She's really good. I think overall they did a really good job of her. She's really cute. You know, exactly what you would expect from her. And yeah, so like I said, build, really tanky build, really good for in-game, really good for steel buff. You can use her normal gameplay as well. Of course, she has a hell of a huge energy pool, so it is really nice to see. And of course, if you use any secondary of her, pretty much it's going to be just crit central. Now, there is some exceptions to that. Of course, some weapons just have almost no crit chance, so that will be one of those things. But yeah, I'm not going to ramble on too long about this. This is, yeah, Yareli Prime. I mean, a lot of people have been hyped for her for a very long time, and this is the build for her. So I'm going to leave you guys with a tad bit more gameplay, then we'll move on to the game, not gameplay segment, the build segment. Okay, now onto the build itself. Now, with Yareli Prime, there is a few things I would like to note first of all. She is a one forma build. Like I said, you don't need to put more forma into her unless you want to use your extra slot. As with all my frames, I don't use the extra slot. You can put in whatever if you want to. You can invest more forma. It is entirely up to you. Another thing to note is the arcanes here. Molt Augmented is pretty much on every single build you will find everywhere on any frame. Okay, Molt Augmented is just really good to have because it gives you a hell of a lot more ability strength. Now with the second slot here, Arcane Aegis. If you don't have Arcane Aegis, that is totally fine. Use what you want, but I would suggest something that benefits your secondary damage a little bit more. If you have Arcane Avenger, use that. If you have Arcane, what was it? There is Pistolier that gives you more ammo efficiency. Here it is, Arcane Pistolier. You can use that. You can use Arcane Precision, which will give you much more secondary damage. You know, it really is up to you to use what you want on that slot because of the fact that, you know, she has a great passive, and that is why using a good secondary with Yareli Prime is so important, because as she gains 200% bonus crit chance for any secondary weapon in the game if she has been moving at least 1.5 seconds. And I mean, this is Warframe, you're constantly moving, so that is active all the time. So having a great secondary with Yareli is a pretty much almost a must thing. But anyway, so if you don't want to run any of those, of course, Arcane Aegis, really good to have, and the reason for that is we are running an Augment, Loyal Marilina. Now, the thing is with this, you can't run Marilina anymore, and that's fine because in most cases you can't really benefit from it in missions, so Merlina will follow you around rather than you riding on her. And the nice thing about this is she casts Sea Snares. If you don't know what Sea Snares is, it's her first ability. This makes enemies extremely vulnerable to all damage. 330% at the moment actually, so that is really good. It goes up of course with Mold Augmented, so enemies are more vulnerable down the line even. So this is really good. So this build overall is made for Steel Path of course, any other content that you want to do, because of the fact that this build is extremely tanky. Merlina gives us a 90% damage reduction while she is active, and she has a hell of a lot of health due to our high strength. So this is really good, and the nice thing about Merlina is you can recast her if you do want to, and it gives you 4 seconds of invulnerability, which is really good. Now the third ability, I've tested that ability, and really I don't know why you would want to use it. It doesn't feel like it scales whatsoever. I've tried it, it's really not good. That's the blades that circle around her. It is really not good, not even with the augment. It's a weird playstyle and doesn't really benefit you whatsoever. So I would highly recommend, of course, subsuming Eclipse, like most of my builds, onto this slot. And the reason for that is just, you know, you have a choice once again. You know, life is better if you have choices. So you can pop either a evasion buff, which is massive on her, or you can pop a damage increase. Now the damage increase is 68% and the damage reduction is 75%, you know, so combine this with this and you are night damn unkillable. And of course with Arcane Aegis, with that massive amount of damage reduction, if you get hit a couple of times, you know, your shields are going to be full again, really quick. Now another thing to note is, of course, we do the run adaptation on this for even more damage reduction. We are really speccing out Yareli to be a immortal cheerleader, pretty much. That is, actually, I'm gonna call it that build. I'm gonna call it that, the immortal cheerleader Yareli. Here we go. Okay, so then of course Streamline, just for a little bit more ability efficiency, because we're running really low on it since we're using Blind Rage. That's fine. Primed Flow, because we need a lot of energy. This build is energy hungry if you cast a lot, which you will be doing anyways in a mission. Equilibrium, just to help with the upkeep on both energy and health if you do somehow lose some of your HP by, you know, Toxin Eximus by example. Intensify, of course, you can swap this out for Umbral Intensify if you are so lucky to have more Umbra Forma and want to invest more into the build, but this build is more than enough the way it is with Prime Continuity there as well. Now just a quick note, if you guys do not have a Prime Continuity, use normal continuity. If you do not have Prime Flow, use normal flow. If you don't have Max Blind Rage, just use the one you have and level it up. You know, you can work towards getting this build online, and pretty much she's the only frame you will ever need. She's really strong and really good. She has a very high base shield of 650, so you don't even need to invest more into it. It is really good. So this is the build for I'm running. I know it looks like a very generic build, but it works really well. And with the Aura mod growing power, I know this one is a tad bit more rare, so if you guys want to, of course, put on the slot whatever you want, really it does not matter, but growing power really helps out with the strength to get even more damage vulnerability on enemies of Sea Snares. Get your Merlina, that's a very difficult name for me to pronounce, Merlina, get her more tanky in terms of her health, a lot more HP from this, and then of course you have more damage on your Eclipse. And then I just want to quickly note Riptide. This is basically an AoE that sucks in enemies in a massive radius, damage increases as enemies get sucked in, you know, that type of thing. It is really cool. It doesn't really scale well, the damage output of it. It is really not that significant, especially in Steel Path if you're going up against really armored enemies. But it is nice as a crowd control. And I have a little bit of a gripe with the skill, that's why I don't really like using it. You will see in the gameplay I try using it, but I don't really like it. And the reason is the hitbox on the field is extremely weird when you try to shoot into it, and I'm not a big fan of that. But, you know, if you use something like a turret with blast on, for example, gas, you're going to shred those enemies either way. So, yeah, just a side note on that, really. It is a little bit finicky. But it works when it works, it works when it doesn't work, you know, those type of things. It's still a good crowd control ability. So yeah, but that's it for the build segment. So yeah, that's the build segment as well done. I mean, it's a very generic setup, nothing really all that special. You just capitalize really well on her augment for Marilina, I think it's called. It's a very difficult name for me to pronounce because I'm not actually English. So yeah, it's a build based around that augment pretty much because of the fact that it changes completely how a second ability behaves and gives you a hell of a lot of killing potential because of the fact that you do have that extra vulnerability. So it is actually really good. But yeah, that's it for this video, guys. Really, not much else to say. I think if you like Yareli, you probably have a build by now. If you don't have a build, well, this is the one for you pretty much. It's very similar to other builds. I mean, there's not really any way else to spec her for tankiness and properly utilize a kit. So yeah, I mean, that's about it, really. One thing that I would want to add to this is if you want to capitalize on her fourth ability more than I do, I would recommend running something that has a AoE splash or more damage than a connected Laxian, something like the Torrid, or if you want to, you can run a gas build with slash procs, you know, that type of thing. You can really play around with it and find that really sweet weapon that works for you. Hell, if you want to use a secondary like the Epitaph or the Pox, you know, I have a Pox build on the channel as well. That really works well with her. Really, the Pox works pretty damn good because of the fact that it's a lingering AoE, so hitboxes doesn't really matter because it will just proc anyway. So really, you can play around and find what works for you. Yeah, that's it for this video, guys. I hope that you all have a phenomenal Friday or weekend whenever you're watching this video. Really, thank you very much for the support, and I will see you all again in the next one on Monday. Yeah, have a good one, and peace out.